Ask the Mayor, your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth, Bob Hedlund, questions about the town of Weymouth and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now, here's Bob Hedlund.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Ask Mayor Bob, or Ask the Mayor, as we like to call it around here. I have been designated...
As we like to call it around here, it's the name of the show.
I have been designated as a citizen inquisitor, the man responsible for grilling our mayor. My name's Jim Melody. I'm a lifelong resident of Weymouth, or a POW, as we like to describe ourselves, a prisoner of Weymouth. I'm here, as always, and joined by the star of the show, the mayor of Weymouth, now entering his second full year of service, Mayor Robert Hedlund. How are you today, Mayor Hedlund?
Good, Jim.
Fantastic. Again, we look out the window and we see the Ides of April coming our way. April showers bring May flowers. It's been...
our reservoir is filling up really nice,
I was just going to say, and it's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Boy, I drive by all the local water supplies.
Getting up right about where we need to be. We're getting there.
It's really exciting to just drive around. I'm sure everybody shares our enthusiasm from Whitman Spawn to the reservoir. Honestly, you've seen these things recede by, 50 yards, if not 100 yards in some places. It's really been something. So that's a positive. And listen, to keep the good times rolling, Bob, the first question of the day comes from Jeff Cummings in Weymouth, who is enthusiastic about the number of grants Weymouth has been receiving. What are some of your favorite grants that Weymouth has received? And congratulations on all your success in that category. It really does seem to be something that is unstoppable right now.
My favorite one?
Congratulations on all the success.
My favorite one would be the one that's the most money.
And what top, if we're playing word association, what's the first one that comes to mind?
We got to put together a list because I'm losing a lot of little piddly ones that come in here and there.
Oh, they're even smaller ones we're not even aware of, huh?
We got one that's, I think it's okay to talk about by the time the show airs, like 13 grand. I'm not going to say what it is, but a state grant for 13 grand, for 13,000 for something specific. There's a lot of little ones like that.
Wow.
But, we've done great. Grant writer Nick Bulens has done a great job. The work up at Emory, we have what's known as a park grant there. We have, I'm going to have to put a list together, but it's significant. The one I would say, in answer to your question specifically, the one I like the best is probably the one we just got. The Commercial Street Bridge, as you know, up behind the Venetian, has been rated a number of times now structurally deficient by the state.
We've talked about that a couple times, as a matter of fact, on the show. You recommended I don't stroll over that if I recommend.
You said it. You said it.
I have a part-time job as the bridge tester for the town of Weymouth. I'm volunteering my services right now.
So the quick story on that one is the state, a year or so ago, came up with a new program. I think the legislature had a hand in it, small bridge grant program. It was really geared towards Western Mass communities, smaller communities with more remote bridges, like small bridges that, as you know, we have a lot of deficient bridges in the state. So smaller bridges in communities that where if you were to lose that bridge, it would create a great disruption for people getting to their homes. So in this particular one, when I knew the program came out, I instructed staff that let's go after a grant for the Commercial Street Bridge. It's about $1 million, upwards to $1 million project to replace that bridge. Once we got into it and we looked at the particulars of the program, we thought we might have a hard time with this because of the parameters of the program. This didn't fit the profile exactly. But I said, what if we take the angle that it may not be disrupting a lot of residents to their homes if that were to be a closure, because you've got Broad Street right there in Commercial Street.
Couple access points, yeah.
I said it could be a great disruption for the herring to get home. So that was the angle we played. I got a letter of support from the Commissioner of Fisheries and Wildlife and Fisheries and Wildlife's resource director, who is very intimately knowledgeable about the herring run. And their support, I think, was very helpful. We enlisted the support of our legislators, which was helpful, and we got the grant. So that's $500,000 that otherwise would be coming out of our capital plan or out of free cash or whatever to address that. Because at some point, it's going to face possibly a closure at some point. So I'd say that would be my favorite one, just because of the way we worked it. We got the Seaport Economic Development Grant, which the town prior to my administration never applied for one. So that's a project we're doing up to connect the beaches in North Weymouth that we talked about before. That was a grant that we went down. Nick and I went down to Fall River, made a presentation to the council, and we were successful in that. That's for the engineering, feasibility and engineering and design. If we get that work done, and by the way, the town portion for that is being paid by Seascape, so there's no cost to the taxpayers thus far on that initiative. And when we get the design work, we'll go back before the Seaport Economic Council and see if we can get some money for construction. And we also have some money set aside for construction from the Seascape people.
Now, when you talk about economic development, to actually make that a working port, I mean, would that be a place where commercial fish would come in?
The economic development definitions are kind of broad in that sense that, you know, it create some additional activity down there, theoretically, connect the beaches. You have some latitude in obviously they all got to be waterfront-related projects is the main criteria. So that's how we fit, and we're able to apply for that. And, you know, it didn't hurt. That program is basically run by the Lieutenant Governor. You know, I've had a long relationship with her, had the opportunity to talk to her about it. So, you know, I think it put us in a good position to get that.
Well, part of your appeal when you were running for mayor was the connection that you've had on the Hill, and I think this is, you know, proof in the pudding, and it's all exciting stuff.
I don't think that we really, I didn't think, you know, that was what I talked about in the campaign, representing 8 towns, could see how different towns, the best practices, if you will, and that was one of the things I felt strongly about, that we didn't really avail ourselves of a lot of these state grants through the years, maybe to the extent that we could have. Nick's an excellent grant writer. He's one of the best. But, you know, we never applied for a library construction grant. We had this huge headache with the library. Now, I don't want to talk about that and jinx ourselves because the state hasn't made a determination on that, but we'll put ourselves really in a good position to get that. Some of these others that we talked about, we've never applied for, you know, so.
Well, it's good that we have a presence in these meetings, and it sounds like we're winning.
But I like the way you worded it. What's your favorite one? I like that approach. That was good.
Well, things are hopping for sure, and not so coincidentally, Jay Blanchard, one of the legends of Idlewild, actually wrote in and was really...
I got to give a shout out too, by the way, to the Waterfront Committee, because that was done through the auspices of the Waterfront Committee. Its chairman, George Much, traveled to Fall River with us on that, and that's actually something that committee first looked at 30 years ago. So that thing had been kicking around for a while.
Now, is that a citizens group, the Waterfront Committee, or is that a town?
No, it's a mayoral appointee advisory committee.
Dynamite.
Yeah.
But people had been asking about what was cooking with that herring run bridge, because we have alluded to it before. And as we opened the show talking about the Weymouth rainfall. If you go down to that area where the bridge is now, the steps that the herring used to climb, you know, to and fro, the volume of water is so significant, it's just a creek. The steps are out of play right now because of the volume of water, honestly. It's really exciting.
Out of play.
So they can just take the express lane to go have a few fish babies. I think that's what's cooking. Spring has sprung. Well, listen, on a whole different train and track. Let's talk about Webb Park, because Marge from Weymouth would like to ask Mayor Bob. By the way, and please keep the questions coming to askmayorbob@gmail.com. We encourage everyone to reach out. There are no boundaries. Everything's fair game, as you know. And
hey, we made it through our last show without any pop culture questions or wise guy questions. I'm sure Mr. X, if he's still a viewer, would be very happy about that.
Well, listen, we're all business here at Ask the Mayor on a rainy April day. But listen, Marge puts out that I realize that Webb Park is managed by the DCR, but would like to suggest that the town of Weymouth make an attempt to work with DCR to manage the growth of the sumac at the park. The area, again, is once again becoming overgrown with this invasive plant, and the view of Boston is obscured in many places. This park is one of the most used in the area, and many people enjoy a walk in there, especially in the good weather. I would suggest a cleanup day with sumac as a major target. There's usually a general cleanup day sponsored by DCR in April, which entails planting flowers and light cleanup. Could we join forces with them this year and improve the look of the park? This is obviously...
I appreciate Marge, is it?
Yeah, it is Marge.
Bringing this to our attention. In a previous show, the last show we taped, I actually talked about my hatred of sumac.
Almost the exact same conversation about the park up at Great Hill.
Yeah, and the fact that we, in the DPW, did a great job in eradicating a lot of sumac in a lot of areas. The area down at Church Street by the railroad overpass, all of the areas where they undertook cutback, where we put our new guardrails in place. So on the town side, we've gotten a lot of sumac out of the way, Marge. I agree with you, I hate the stuff. It is invasive, and I think what I'd start by doing is having a conversation with DCR, just to kind of bring it to their attention and ask what they can do about it.
Well, Webb Park's a jewel, needless to say, and things are going to start getting better down that neck of the woods too, with the development that's occurring down there and improvements in that general
Not
area,
everyone's
right?
happy with that, but considering that it fits the zoning that's been in place there since the 60s or 70s, it's a pretty good project compared to what we could have gotten down there.
I think what's interesting is how good gets better. For instance, when you talk about what's happened up at Great Hill, all the improvements that the town's invested in, that was a place where people dropped their trash. That's where people kind of didn't take care of it so well. But now that the town's taking care of it, I drive up there now, I don't see the trash. I don't see the type of crap that we saw prior to you guys putting a few bucks into it.
Litter's still a problem. I mean, people dumping things, it's absurd, but it happens.
Well, it seems like I said, there's a lot of good things going on. Next one is more to me. It's one of the rare ones we get directed specifically to me, but Mike from Weymouth wants to know. He wrote in, I know the citizen advocate is a musician, that would be me. Is his name Melody real or a stage name? I go by several aliases around town, it's true. But I'm proud to report that I am the son of Mr. and Mrs. Paul J. Melody, and I grew up less than a mile from where we're shooting the show right now on Priscilla Circle. So yes, we are the Melody family. We are the proud Melodies. I'm very sorry to report that I am the last Melody male. I had two brothers who did not reproduce a male heir, and
you don't have any.
I have two daughters, and my father had a brother who, unfortunately, had a son who passed away before he could reproduce. So yes, the Melody brand name, unfortunately, will be extinct when I expire.
No, it's on fade.
It's I know a lot of viewers that they have their druthers.
Obviously, you're Irish, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Is that a common Irish name?
It's very unique. It's rare that we meet Melodies, although there is a Melody family in Quincy. I know through a set of circumstances we got introduced, and I don't, it's certainly an odd or an unusual name. Let's call it odd.
How many times you asked if it's a stage? You asked if it's a stage name because of your notoriety in the music industry, having opened up for Grammy Award winner
Jose Feliciano. He said I was the best looking guy he's ever seen, by the way. I don't know.
How many times have you asked?
It comes up semi-regularly when I do pick up my instrument, but a fun fact about the name Melody, as a lot of college professors would reveal when they were doing roll call, first day of class, the word melody is one of the 10 most pleasing sounds in the English language to the human ear. It's one of the 10 most pleasing sounds to the human ear.
I could make a joke right now.
Of course, when I speak, that takes a lot of that off the board. But before I engage anyone, they're favorably predisposed to my exchange.
So not to belabor this question, but I saw you perform some years back with Jose Feliciano. Now,
Yes.
would you say that's the pinnacle of your career? Opening for him?
I would say I've had the luxury of being able to perform in front of a lot of big crowds, and so.
Was that the biggest?
No, it's I've
I
opened
forgot about that Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I've opened up. I've opened up that show 3 different times, and that was certainly all those crowds have been about the same. But I've been blessed.
You
with
opened for him 3 times?
I've opened up the Christmas tree lighting ceremony on the Common 3 different times. Kenneth Babyface, you might know that fella's name. He was the headliner one year. But I've been lucky. I've had some fun, and I need more fans. So listen.
So the reason I brought up Jose Feliciano was you've referenced him on the show before, and recently I might have been on Sirius. One of his songs came on, and it was one I hadn't heard before, or I didn't recognize, or whatever. I mean, I know him basically for 3 songs: "Light My Fire," Feliz Navidad, and the theme song for Chico and the Man.
Oh, I didn't. I wasn't with you on the third one. Okay, go ahead.
I think that was him.
That definitely was him. Yeah.
So the disc jockey said, and it's a station I don't normally listen to on Sirius, said something about how many charted singles he had, and I almost drove off the road.
It was more than 3, obviously.
It was like in some absurd, I gotta look it up, but it was like
Right.
some insanely
more than
high
10?
number. Oh my God, yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
It was like 65 or 72 or some crazy, like, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked.
Stay tuned.
It was
That's
some
what he
high,
said.
absurd number. I could be wrong on that. Someone's going to write in now and take me to task for misinformation, but it was an insanely high number.
And I know you know my fabulous career in Boston radio and TV media sales.
I haven't heard that before.
As we used to say in the business, stay tuned for that.
All right, I thought you were going to give us the history of that again. Next question.
Stay tuned. Well, the next one comes from Mark Reddish. The Reddishes are one of the stand-up groups of families in the Weymouth citizenry. And Mark Reddish in particular wants to know, Mayor Bob, how are the traffic lights timed in town so that they adjust to the certain traffic patterns? He had an incident with his brother riding around, from what I understand, that where they're not synchronized properly. The reason I ask is that I am a very important person, and some of these lights around town are killing me. So, I think he was referencing
Would you read
his
the whole
brother.
question?
Well,
then,
the second
so I
one.
get the full context of this.
The
About
second
that
one.
very important person.
Well, listen. Secondly, when the Emery estate is finished, I suggest there be a site, garden or gazebo, dedicated to the late Carl Powers, one of the finest folks in Weymouth, and he was heavily
Can
associated
you
with
read
Parks
the
and
whole
Grounds.
thing so I get the flavor of this?
Yes. Okay. We'll start from the beginning.
I have a feeling it's going to be interesting.
It's a little difficult to discern. I'm going to read it word for word. Mayor Bob, how are the traffic lights timed in the town, and are they adjusted due to certain traffic patterns?
We actually adjust.
Patterns.
Yes, we adjust them to tick him off when he's riding around with his brother. No.
The reason I asked is that I'm a very impatient person. I said
impatient.
impatient person, and there's some lights around town that are killing me.
At least he's honest.
Second, when the Emery estate is finished, I suggest that there be a site, garden or gazebo, dedicated to the late Carl Powers, one of Weymouth's finest, who was heavily associated to all parks and grounds in Weymouth. Sincerely, Johnny Red, even though it was sent from the Mark Red email address. So
okay, all
we've got a
right.
couple of balls
I'm
in the
an
air on this
impatient
one.
man.
Yes.
I get it.
First of all, he's not aware of the tribute to Carl Powers clearly going on over at the Whipple Center right now. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Yes, it's wonderful. And for those who didn't know, Carl was
But he suggested the gazebo at
at the Emery estate. He named
Emery.
after Carl.
Okay, so yeah. Carl, I second his sentiments about Carl. Obviously, I didn't.
3 cheers to Carl.
I was in office less than a year before his untimely passing.
Did you know Carl, though, historically through the years?
Not really, no.
Oh, geez.
I mean, in passing.
Yeah, one of the best. He'd been involved with Weymouth Parks
And
since I was in grammar
extremely
school.
dedicated,
Yeah,
above
greatest
and
guy.
beyond the call of duty.
Did you guys know Carl out there? Yeah, one of the best.
So yes, there'd be proper recognition, probably not at Emery, but
So right now, there's a gazebo under construction at the Whipple Center that Mark might not have been familiar with, that will be named, from what I understand, the Carl Powers.
and we funded that in our capital plan last year, among other improvements at the senior center.
Wow.
Right.
Real gentle soul.
So, yeah, actually, we're probably going to have a ceremony of sorts over there, not only to highlight that, but all the other improvements over there. And as far as the traffic lights, we do have, and you know, I hope he understands the distinction between traffic lights on the state roads, which there are many, and traffic lights that are controlled by the town, which are few.
My jaw's dropping. I would not have made that connection. I don't think many people would understand
So
the
we
difference
do
there.
interact with the state. In fact, we're working with them now to change some sequencing on lights on 3A.
Or 18 and 53 of those state
Right,
roads?
and oftentimes we might talk to them about, you know, a delayed light to allow turns and things like that. He should be happy to know that on town-controlled traffic signals this year, we will have the lights at Green Street replaced, which were funded last year. We just got caught up in some delays with some design work on that. Those go on the fritz often, and were high priority under the last administration to get them done because of the antiquated nature of that system.
The Green Street from the Heights or the Green Street?
The Green Street and
Kind of a 50 East, where East and Green meet? Yeah.
East and Green, yeah, they're problematic. we're patching them left and right.
But there is a concentrated effort to actually time, or there's a sequence there. Do they actually think that way when they put those lights in?
Yes, and we have a traffic engineer that's part of his job.
Oh, no kidding.
Is to look at that. We're replacing those. We're installing lights that have been in the works for a long time at Libby and Middle. That will happen this year. It's in the pipeline.
So that's a new set of lights?
New construction.
Okay.
Yep. We're working with a couple of abutters now that have a couple concerns, but that's designed, partially funded through the state, partially funded through some developers. That was part of their mitigation as part of their projects through the years. And in the pipeline, lights at the other end of Libby. You're going to see improvements eventually, depending upon when we get some of the road work done with the gas company, but improvements at Washington and Broad, and a turn signal there, arrow installed there so you don't have to guess. We're working with the state on some signalization improvements on like couple locations on 53. So there's a whole bunch of stuff happening. Hopefully he'll become less impatient when we're done. But he needs to be patient while we're doing the work.
Well, it's tough to be impatient when you're important, I would imagine.
Although he didn't make the claim that he was important, I don't want the show to get sued.
I apologize to
for
my friend Mark,
libel, slander
and John.
or whatever.
Yes, it's true. And as we trip down my life memory lane, I lived in Manhattan for a number of years, and all of the lights on those avenues are timed, generally speaking. You can get like 20 blocks in a row before you get shut down again. But so I never thought that there'd be like a synchronization plan.
New York does a better job than, say, Boston, and how they manage their lights.
Boy, but I never thought it gets pretty complex with the state roads and the town roads and coordinating sequencing. I mean, obviously that's.
You know what my pet peeve on lights have been?
Talk to us.
Sympathize with him. That second light when you're heading south towards Hingham at Harbor Light Mall. A guy gets up to that light, trips the light, and he goes right on red, and he's gone, and then you pull up after sitting at the other light, and I've bugged the state for years, why can't there be a sensor that if the car's gone within a certain amount of time, it doesn't trip?
So there's actually sensors there as well that regulate some of these light
That's
changes?
what makes them change,
Oh,
yeah.
you're no kidding.
But, so the guy will trip the light, he'll go right on red, he's gone.
You're right.
And then all of a sudden the light turns red, and there's no car there
does
to
get
pull
rolled,
out.
yeah.
I hate that.
Well, we are learning quite a bit here at Ask the Mayor, and we want to remind everybody, please, to keep the questions coming in at askmayorbob@gmail.com. But that I found very fascinating. Thank you, Mayor Bob. Thank you, Mark and John Reddish. Dear Mayor, I think the boardwalk project down Wessagusset Beach will revitalize that part of town. Awesome. From Jason Thayer, who is made a joke that I probably shouldn't repeat.
Him again?
Yeah, but Jason is a big fan of, I'd like to think, ours, and he's a regular contributor.
I don't understand this. There's two names on here.
Well, the last one was from a TV show that we like to reference every now and again. Welcome Back, Carter. We just talked about Chico and the Man. Yeah. Exactly.
That one went over my head.
Do you want to talk about that boardwalk project a little bit more?
I think we already did,
yeah,
didn't
sure.
we? But
it came up.
So that's a comment, not a question?
I would say, yeah, it's just a little attaboy. Thank you, Jason.
Okay. Yeah, you're going to see more on that. There's some misconceptions, I think, out there a little bit as to what this entails. Again, it was something that the town came up with 30 years ago when they had a waterfront master plan done, when we kind of re-energized the not reactivated, but gave a little oomph to the waterfront committee. I did so with the idea that we would go before the Seaport Economic Council to seek out a grant because we had never done that before, as I mentioned. And I asked the committee to identify a project that would be worth going to the council for. This boardwalk/beach access project is what they came back with. And we said, great, and we put the application before the council. It is more than a boardwalk, and it's more than the beach connection, if you're familiar with the Shelf.
It's where I was inspired to write my Weymouth song. I pulled up to there and overlooking Wessagusset.
And the condition of the Shelf actually produced that beautiful song.
Thank you very much.
It's a mess up there right now.
The snow came down on Wessagusset. I'm overlooking the Wessagusset Yacht Club.
So it involves some work around there to stabilize the coastal embankment. We had a question earlier about sumac.
That's up a great hill and up in Webb Park.
Yeah, we actually have invasive species that have infiltrated that hill, that embankment, causing erosion.
Oh, beautiful.
So this is something that'll benefit some of the homeowners up there too, because it'll stabilize that bank. At the same time, that's part of the scope of the work.
Well, lots going on down
we'll
the
take
beach.
out the invasive species and put the right kind of plantings there that will help hold the hill from eroding.
It's looking good down there. It's a great place to be for our 4th of July fireworks ceremony that your committee and the town does such a great job every year. Walking that block up from the old beach to the new beach and Regatta Road, it's such a great stroll and a really nice part of the town for sure. Hey, I guess since we're talking water, let's go in a different direction.
Hey, this is a great segue. This looks like your last question, and oftentimes because of the fact we get off topic and lose focus, we sometimes have extra questions laying around. So it might be a good time to remind the viewers that if they write, they'll be first in the queue for the next show.
Yes, this in fact is our last question in the file.
And where would they write to us, Jim?
And they would send a note into askmayorbob@gmail.com. Please, again, all questions are fair game. And I want to remind everybody, in tribute to the great Mayor Bob Hedlund, rarely does he look at these questions in advance, so I'm ambushing him with almost every one. And I think you do a pretty damn good job thinking on your feet here.
It makes it fun. I like the spontaneity of it.
Well, listen, talking about water, same train, again, different track, my most overused phrase of this session of shooting. What is the real deal with Canal Pool? Is it closing for good or just closing for the season? I didn't even realize that it was closing for the season.
This is
From a concerned reticent, yes, this is an anonymous
We
submission.
encourage your name, but if you're shy, we don't mind. You know, what is the real deal?
With the Canal Pool.
I think
We're safe there, aren't we?
yeah, but I think that there was a rumor that a slight rumor. I didn't hear a lot of it, but I thought I saw something, heard something, could have been on social media, whatever. But we have not received any calls. Specifically, it is not closing. There was a discussion by the DCR which had some budget issues.
6 months ago or so when it became
Correct,
the big headline,
correct.
right?
As the governor prepared his fiscal year 18 budget, he had to make some cuts at DCR, and DCR's response to those cuts were to look at some savings, and that was one of the things that was potentially up there for discussion. It actually was early in the stage. DCR hadn't got into that, and the rumor got out, and user
Became a
groups,
headline.
user groups, then obviously became proactive. So the rumor got ahead of the reality on that one, but we did receive word. I spoke directly to the Commissioner, Leo Roy, at DCR, who informed me that that was not on the table. So unless something's changed recently, they're still on a normal schedule. There's another rumor that came out recently that they were doing their regularly scheduled closing for the season earlier. We have not heard that.
I don't know how familiar you are with the operations. I was on the impression it was open up
I worked at the MDC back
and
in
of
the
course,
old
we
days.
both could walk there from our homes. I thought that was open 12 months a year anyway. Is it not? Is it only operated, in the
The
winter
schedule has
months?
changed through the years,
yeah.
and I could go on at length, and actually we have a great story we can tell about that pool in a future episode, but how it was left empty for a period of time. But this is a problematic facility for them. It's the only remaining, and they didn't have many to begin with. I think they only ever had 2 in history, where they have a facility with a pool under the same roof as a rink.
Oh, no kidding, huh?
So
You see a lot of
it's
rings.
It's a unique animal for the MDC. There's a great story how the thing came to be.
Ambler?
Yep, back in the old days,
that's what I
and it was
thought.
done over a card game in the middle of the night.
Oh,
And it magically appeared in a bond bill.
we
or
don't have
something.
enough of those card games anymore.
They don't happen like that anymore up there. The new breed up there doesn't play cards.
Well, listen,
They tweet all day, but they don't play cards anymore.
we're getting we need to wrap it up. So, we're interested in that
unless
story.
if we have some more information, we'll post it online. We'll post it on the town website. But as far as we know, they're on a normal schedule at the Canal Pool.
Dynamite. Well, listen, we want to remind everybody to send those questions in to askmayorbob@gmail.com. We want to thank everybody, as always, for tuning in, and our good friends at WETC for their great job. And Mayor, thanks very much for the time and answering all these questions that I'm peppering you with.
Great. And stay tuned for...
I Dream of Jeannie? Thank you, Mary.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.